access to it. Okay, guys, it's 8:35, so I guess we'll get started now. Welcome everyone to this cross-organizational, cross-border event. It's really exciting to have people here, to have everyone here. I think it's pretty exciting to have people from El Salvador and all over the US. We have a lot of Salvadoran representation here. I'm sure a few people from other countries as well. So we'll start out by introducing ourselves, the organizing parties, and I'll give Maritza to get started and introduce herself and Tequeria.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today in exploring the world of startups, both here in the US and abroad. I'd like to start off by giving a quick shout out to both Carlos Guadron from Salvis Unidos and Fernando Moran from SNBX for partnering with us for this event. And then for those of you who don't know me, my name is Maritza Alas. I'm a software engineer out here in Los Angeles. I'm also one of Tequeria's chapter directors in LA. Tequeria is a nonprofit for the Latinx community working in and around tech, and you can learn more about Tequeria at tequeria.org. Pass it off to you, Carlos.
Thanks, Maritza. So my name is Carlos Guadron. I am the organizer behind Salvis Unidos NYC. We're essentially a networking and social group based out of New York City with the objective of kind of bringing the Salvadoran community together in New York and around the country. So we've done events in LA and we've done a lot of Zoom events over the pandemic, but our main focus is to bring the community together of Salvadorans in New York City. And it's awesome to collaborate with other Latino or Latinx based organizations in events like these. So we're So we're very excited to collaborate with you guys, and I'll give it over to Fernando.
Thank you. Very excited actually, because for me, this is the first event where connecting entrepreneurs from El Salvador and entrepreneurs who are Salvadorian but living abroad, right? And I think it's a great step to join again, you know, through this great effort of entrepreneurship. I think there's always a common ground that unites all of us, which is the love for our country and the love for our people. And we acknowledge the talent that Salvadorians have across the world. And for me today, it's a very exciting day to essentially bring forth a space for entrepreneurs to talk to each other, get to learn from each perspective, and you know, become one under at least this umbrella where we're calling entrepreneurs, right? So very happy for this in person. That's what we do in El Salvador. We've been doing it for 4 years, bringing entrepreneurs together, connecting them, helping create communities. So very excited to giving a step forward and connecting with entrepreneurs from across the United States and the world. So thank you.
Awesome, excellent. So now that you know a little bit about us, we can introduce our very special panelists. I guess we'll start in the order that you guys joined. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization business, Cristian?
Sure, happy to. Well, first of all, thanks guys for organizing this. Thank you, Tequeria, SNBX, and Salvis Unidos NYC. This is awesome to have a space like this and be able to connect with fellow Salvadorians, like not just in the US, but other Salvadoran entrepreneurs back home. So it's awesome. So thank you. Having said that, my name is Cristian Quintanilla. I am the founder and owner of Don Leo Coffee, which is the first 100% Salvadoran processed and owned and truly authentic brand of gourmet coffee to be distributed in the US. Don Leo Coffee is not only obviously grown and harvested, but also processed. It is roasted, ground, and packaged all in El Salvador at a beneficio in Guadron. And there's no other brand that does that there. Actually, there's no other brand of coffee that does that from any other country except for Juan Valdez. They're the only ones, and it's kind of a similar model. Yeah, it's 100% Salvadoran coffee distributed in the US through my website and through now Amazon as well. So yeah, happy to be here and happy to join you guys.
Very exciting. Thanks for sharing. Okay, next up is Jose Duarte.
Hey, thank you so much for organizing too. I was born and raised in El Salvador, and I left when I was 19. So it's going on like 15 years now. I lost count. So it's nice to be able to connect to fellow Salvadorans, especially with last few years. It's been harder to go because of the pandemic and everything. I am a co-founder of Quora. We are an app-based fintech, and our mission is to help college students get the financial readiness they need. We define that as being able to have savings, being able to have good credit, and being able to have good financial literacy. We haven't launched yet. Kind of, Quora is kind of the second forming of a company called Borrow, and actually, the way that Borrow got started is by helping international students in the U.S. Get access to auto loans. So, you know, if you came to the U.S. to study or anything, you might know you kind of pop up as an 18-year-old newborn with no credit history and, you know, nothing really to help you get access to financing, and we solved that problem. And over the years, we evolved that, expanded the product line, launched an app a couple of years ago, and this year we're launching a virtual card, and that's why we decided to change the name of the company. It used to be Borrow because of borrowing, which is what you did with us. And so this year when we were thinking about the card, we were like, well, you know, is the name still right? And interesting trivia, I actually gave the name to the new company, and it's named after Coras. We had like 100 different financial names, and on a lark, I just wrote down Cora, and we tested it, and it ended up winning. And so, yeah, I run the marketing and growth for the company. So I do branding, advertising, UX. I work with our designers on the app and on the product, the CRM, the social media, all that stuff. So yeah, thank you. Excited to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I love the name, Quora. Can I borrow Quora? It's awesome. Okay, next up, Roberto Palomo.
Hey, hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Roberto Palomo, also known as Robbie. Thank you, Fernando, for inviting me, and thank you guys for putting this meeting together. It's awesome. I'm a Salvadoran. Actually, I was born in Pittsburgh, but I came to El Salvador when I was a kid. I'm Salvadoran. I love pupusas, and I started my business in El Salvador. I'm a company builder. I build tech companies. I'm a graphic designer. To date, I have built probably, I don't know, 12 tech companies in El Salvador. My first one when I was 22 is Web Informatica, then Alertux, MarketBeat, and guanacos.com. And one of the fun things is the last year we started our first company with a Salvadoran living in the United States, which is Lexus Legal. And from Capa Uno, which is my company from where I pivoted to all the other initiatives, I tried to help out the ecosystem. That's how we met with Fernando, who's an awesome guy, and us and Nayeli, and so that's what we do. So glad to be here and glad to meet you guys. Congratulations on your ventures.
Excellent. Welcome, Roberto. Robbie. Okay, last but not least, Eduardo Frances.
Hey guys, sorry I was late. I was talking in the Google Meet. I didn't know. I thought nobody showed up, and I was like, "Wow, nobody." Fernando, what happened? No, but thank you, Fernando, for having me in the program, and maybe to share my story. It's a little bit different. I'm actually not a founder yet. I work for Hugo, and it's very interesting what we have been doing in Hugo, because we started as an on-demand delivery platform, and we kind of shifted towards the super app model. And the interesting case that happened in Hugo is that many team members were creating from within the company. So I actually started, I was part of the corporate development team. I used to raise capital for the company. While raising capital, we identified certain industries that were very interesting to explore and start diverging into that. And basically, I created the fintech vertical in the company. So that's why I'm not a founder yet, in the sense that I don't own my own company, but we are all entrepreneurs at Google, and now we have 7 verticals. And it has been a really interesting path. We closed a multi-million-dollar deal with Visa. We're going to start issuing cards. We're building our own acquiring network. And any questions you might have, it's interesting in my case, because I was learning from obviously the founders and the entrepreneurs who started the project, but I guess their vision started growing with their people, and all of these verticals started pumping out, and now we operate in 7 countries with 7 different verticals.
Oh, awesome. Really impressive stories.
Yeah, and I'm from El Salvador as well. And I also love pupusas.
Excellent. Well, I think we have a lot of questions. I know I have a lot of questions, everything from really simple ones to, complex ones. But I think I'll just get the ball rolling. But before I do that, I want to explain to everyone what we're going to do with so we don't get everyone speaking up at the same time. We're going to be using the stack method so people can ask questions. So if you have a question or a comment you want to ask one of our 4 panelists, please type in stack in the chat like I just did. And that will put you in line or a queue or a stack. And we'll use that order to call on you guys so you guys can take turns asking questions. But just to get the ball rolling, I guess I'll ask a simple question. What motivated you guys to become an entrepreneur? Like, it's a very difficult thing. It's a very risky thing, right? There's a lot of Petra. There's a lot of risk and guts that are required to go in and be an entrepreneur. So I want to hear from each of you, just a short kind of quip, and that will let the audience ask some questions. So let's go with the order that we started with. Cristian, why don't you tell us why, what motivated you to start a business?
Sure, no problem. So the idea for Don't Coffee really came from the fact that, well, like everyone else, and I guess I didn't share this piece. I was born in El Salvador, and I came to LA when I was 10. And I've always loved coffee. Everybody around me has always loved coffee. And growing up in LA, at one point, I think it was around 2010-ish or so, I remember like every time I would go to El Salvador, I would bring back coffee. And then one time I ran out. And I was like, man, I got to find some coffee from El Salvador. Like, I want some coffee from El Salvador. And I went looking because I was like, there's got to be some coffee here. It's LA, right? Like, got everything. Couldn't find any. And then I went online on my coffee from El Salvador, like a Salvadoran brand. Couldn't find one. And then I thought, there's no way. Like, if I want coffee from El Salvador, I have to go to El Salvador or tell like my mom when she goes for like Christmas or like in Agosto, like bring me back some coffee, which is what everybody does, right? And then I was like, there's got to be a way. There's no way. Like, we can't, like, you could get anything online. You could order it and then it'll be shipped to you. And so that kind of planted the seed. So I was like, I want to be able to buy Salvadoran coffee here in LA or just somewhere in the US, so anywhere, just to be able to get it. And so that planted the seed. And then I started slowly kind of doing research. And so initially I wanted to just do that, be like, okay, I want to be able to order coffee myself or like, I know there's about 2 million other Salvadorans in the US who enjoy coffee, most of them, and want Salvadoran coffee because it's a typical thing. Like my aunts, my uncles, everybody asks for coffee when you go. So as I started to do research, I started to learn more about the industry and the process and the coffee growers and the producers. And, I realized it was a snowball effect. Then it became more of, I don't like the way the business model is currently set up, because the producers, those who own the the raw goods, the raw material. Like Salvador is sitting on a gold mine, a brown gold mine, and it's amazing. But the producers are the ones that get the least benefit of the entire process. Like I know how everybody's familiar with how much coffee costs, a cup of coffee costs here in LA, or just buying coffee at the store, a bag of coffee. But all of that profit, all those margins go to the end roaster, producer here, not the grower in El Salvador. And as I learned that, and I'm a finance guy, and I'm actually on the corporate finance team at Mattel. That has absolutely nothing to do with my business, other than I've learned a lot there on how to run a business, you know, internationally. And so it made me then, it grew from, oh, I want to be able to start a business and get coffee here in the US, to I want to change that business model from locally roasted, which is what everyone says here. If you go to a coffee shop and you want to get great coffee, they'll be like, oh, it's locally roasted. But you don't know where that coffee came from. They can't say locally grown because coffee doesn't grow in the US. So is it really truly authentic, right? Like, but at the same time, to me, that just means the big roasters go, they buy an entire just crop of coffee and they push the price down that way, but they buy it raw. They bring it here in what we call it in oro, and they roast it here and they process the rest of, they do all the value add processes here. What that just means, they pay as little as possible, and none of that, those other processes like the roasting, the grinding, the packaging, all of that doesn't get generated, doesn't leave revenue back in El Salvador. So immediately I thought, no, I'm going to do all of that there. And so that not only makes it truly authentic Salvadoran coffee, but it also, like, I pay more per pound of coffee because it's already processed and packaged, and you know, when it gets here, but that also leaves more revenue for our people down there. And again, I'm a numbers guy, so the margins are enough that I'm okay with that. That's a good thing. That's what I want. Now I know that the big coffee companies here, like they don't have a vested interest in that. Like if I'm an executive at any of the big companies here, my goal is I get paid to maximize profit. So I'm gonna pay as little as possible and generate as much as possible, right? They don't care about that, but it takes one of us to really care about our people to really want to change that business model. So it started as wanting to bring coffee over. It became wanting to change the entire business model of a global, massive industry that I know can be done, and in the long run will not only help Salvadoran producers, coffee producers, but also like the rest of Central America, which is all processed and handled the same way. So.
Excellent. Wow, thanks for sharing. It's a big mission taking on Big Coffee, but we're definitely from the right country to do it, right? All right. In the interest of time, I'll let any other three panelists volunteer their motivation for starting a business, and we have some questions coming in, so I want to move on. I want to give the audience a chance to ask some of their questions. So, Robbie, Jose, Eduardo, anyone want to share what motivated them to start a business?
I would say for me, it started when I was 15 or 16. I had an internship down in El Salvador where I worked at a consulting company, and the amount of projects and how varied they were was really exciting. Like I remember running a communication seminar at Banco Agrícola, and then helping Embotelladora La Cascada figure out what flavor Salvacola should be when they were about to come out with it, and running the Effie Awards, which were awards on efficacy of advertising. And that kind of spoiled me. My first job out of college was at Ernst & Young, and it was just so boring to me to be doing the same thing and every day that I eventually joined my first startup that I was just an employee, but it was with a bunch of college friends, and we would, you know, work nights and weekends and play video games during work hours. And it was just like a very dynamic small team feeling, and just the breadth of the things that you get to do and have to learn just because you have to, because there's no one else to do it. That just really energizes me. And then, you know, with Cora, really that experience of having been an international student and just being able to help other students like that was just really attractive to me.
Roberto?
Well, in my case, my family is full of entrepreneurs, so that and at the time we didn't have the internet, so we all had dinner together. And we always heard my grandpa. I grew up with my mom and my grandparents on my mother's side. So I always heard the entrepreneurial stories, how the cows had this problem, how they drowned, a couple of cows drowned today. My mom had problems, and she was building cabinets, and how she had problems. So and I was a kid listening to all this. So I always thought that I would have a business, and I started selling when I was 12. My grandpa gave me this book by Dale Carnegie, how to influence people and get friends, and so I read this book, and then I read Zig Ziglar, and Og Mandino and all that when I was growing up as a teenager. So when I was 18, I already had sold so many stuff all over the place that I had enough money to start my own company. So that's how I started. Actually, and I believe starting a company in Salvador is very easy. So I just got hooked up on that.
Awesome. Eduardo, do you want to share?
Yeah. So again, my story is a bit different. However, like the entrepreneurship mindset has been with me like since I was a kid as well. When I was in college, I joined the venture capital club team, and that's when I started to learn more about the corporate side of startups. That's what kind of I really liked more, and I visualized myself doing that. However, once I started in Google, I had to build up more of my sales and marketing skills that I kind of lacked, and that's very important for entrepreneurs to know, because at the end of the day, you have to sell the product, not just envision it, and you have to find the right product market fit, specifically in my case, that's building a fintech product, because aside from the altruism, you can do all the unbanked and target that type of population. But I think it goes more in understanding the user in terms of what they want and what they need. And that's where it comes, where all the entrepreneurs, they're trying to build something, but I guess at the end, it's building something for a purpose, right? And I guess that's what Cristian did with coffee, and Jose with Cora, and Roberto as well. So I guess it's being around a culture with many entrepreneurs and young individuals who are constantly trying to innovate also has been an impact in my entrepreneurship environment and skill sets.
Awesome. All right. Awesome. All right. So let's see if we get some questions here. Looks like Petra went straight for the money question, straight to the point. And does anyone feel comfortable sharing some of their financials?
Enough to pay the bills, girl. Whatever it takes to pay the bill.
Awesome. That's all it takes, right? You just got to be able to eat and house yourself, right? Okay. Let's see. Robbie?
Yeah, maybe just give a little perspective. It's been more than 20 years since I started my first company. And some of the companies have failed terribly. So in 2005, I lost all the money I had in one of the companies in a sector I didn't know anything about. So I went bankrupt, and I started all over again. And some of the companies were doing well, and that helped me out. So it all depends. In the first years, I always have said it's very easy to start a company in El Salvador. It's probably a little bit harder to scale. But it's very easy to reach a certain level of like a lifestyle company that allows you, and that's one of the things that I found, that one company wouldn't allow me to have the lifestyle that I wanted in El Salvador. And as I said, I started in 1997. So by that time, we didn't have an ecosystem like the one we're starting to have right now, or the one that's already developed in other countries or in other cities, right? So what I figured out was it's fairly easy to start. Let's start several companies. And the bunch of companies, they provide me enough to live well in the country, to have some savings elsewhere. We have some companies in Guatemala, Costa Rica, as well. So it's not like one huge company that's in my case, from my experience, but several small, medium-sized companies, and that should provide my patrimonio for my kids, and the dream.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that perspective, Robbie. Let's see. We have a question from Diego Fuentes. Diego, do you want to get on the mic to ask, or do you want me to read the question you put in the chat?
Maybe you can read it. Don't worry.
Okay, no problem. All right. So Diego's question is, I guess anyone can take a stab at this. Is, do you think El Salvador could become a tech startup hub for Central America, such as Silicon Valley for USA? If yes, in your opinion, what do we need to achieve that, and how would you help the country to achieve that? Anyone want to take a shot at that question?
Yeah, I can take that and maybe give my perspective. I think we're in that path right now. Also, way back, Fernando started his own project to do this for El Salvador specifically. And I guess if I'm not mistaken, it was related to get like tax incentives in a certain area. But I think El Salvador right now it's having a boom in the tech industry. And just to give you an example with Hugo, there was a big investment of institutional funds from the US, Europe, Asia, Pacific, that way back didn't even look at the region and say, it goes back to the scalability argument that Roberto was doing. It's like, okay, El Salvador, it's a small market, obviously. In certain industries, you can still get more market, like for example, remittances or the fintech industry. But as a hub, it's a perfect place to be, and even for human capital to come and go to El Salvador, it's a paradise, right? So you have the surf around, you have hikings, whatever. And for our Series A that we raised $15 million, for many of these funds, it was the first time they invested it in the region. So it was very hard at the beginning to kind of first demonstrate the scalability and even when we were presenting our TAMs for the different industries or verticals, there was a lot of like they weren't that happy with the number. They were trying to say like, look, let's just go to Mexico, or let's go to another country in South America. And I guess for future entrepreneurs, as maybe Diego will be someday, it's opening a door, right? That we're raising our Series B for about $30 million. And it's opening the door for a lot of entrepreneurs and all these funds to kind of like put the eye in El Salvador as they did in Colombia when Rappi and all these players started to bloom, and also the example of Mexico, that one company became a unicorn, and then the next month 2, and then the next month 5, and now I think there are over 100 in a period of 3 months. So going back to the tech thing, I think it's going to be something that's gonna materialize pretty soon. And I'm not I still don't have a say in for example in crypto, but obviously it helps when your government is trying to bring investors from crypto. I don't know if they're the best people in the world, but still it's gonna bring investment to the country. That at the end, that will allow everyone to get more funds and have a new startup.
Excellent. Great answer. That's really exciting. That's that's a really great outlook. So we're excited to see maybe some of us will move back to El Salvador, and leave Silicon Valley behind. Go back to the Coffee Valley, right? All
Hey,
right.
I'm down with that, man. Seriously. Like he was saying, the surf, the hiking, the coffee.
What else do you need, right? All right. Next up on a stack, and for the new joiners, so it's just a reminder. If you have a question, please type stack. You don't have to type out your whole question in the chat unless you're a little too shy to speak up. But just type stack in the chat box, and we will call on you in order, so you can ask your question. Benjamin Diaz, you're up.
Hello. So I'm in the US, so I have a few questions actually. So coming from someone who doesn't have any experience in the background of like finance or really even corporate kind of, I guess like fundraising, if you will, what are kind of the beginning process of like starting up a startup? What kind of key kind of skills would you need? Because going from an idea to a business seems like a giant leap, and it seems like being able to materialize these things in a timely fashion while you're working full time or something like that. Uh, how would you go about that? What's some kind of advice for someone who has zero experience in this field? So yeah.
Okay, good question. Any of the panelists want to take that? Cristian?
Just real quick, I didn't have any corporate experience before I started this. I was in banking, like as a personal banker, relationship manager in a branch for like 13 years before I even started anything. I then decided to go to grad school. What I can say is start small, do research. You don't have to know everything, but obviously the more you know, the better. So do research, learn how to read financial statements. You can nowadays, with the resources you have, you can Google like how to read financial statements, how to create, if you want to raise capital, how to raise capital. You literally can find that on YouTube, Google it, and you can go step by step and do research. The biggest, most important thing you can do is start. Like you'll figure it out along the way. Like you just have to know that problems are going to come up and you're going to have to solve it. If a problem comes up and you are like, I don't want to deal with this, then you never really had the intention of doing it. Like I've run into a million problems. I had no idea what was going to happen, how I was going to create the business. I had to quit my job. You got to be willing to do whatever it takes. I was a Lyft and Uber driver for over a year, like struggling to pay rent until I got the business to where I wanted it to be. And then I went back to work at corporate. So like, you just have to be willing to sacrifice and solve whatever issues come up, and do your research and learn as much as possible. If you can for free, if not, then do whatever it takes, like take classes or whatever.
Okay, awesome. I saw Robbie and Josue, so we'll go into order. I think I saw Robbie first.
Thank you. Yeah, in my case, I really, from idea to starting the business, that's usually a couple of overthink the starting process. You get this all this kind of freaked out. What if I fail? And failure is a big probability. So if you think too much about it, you won't do it. So what I do is I have this rules for taking risks, and one of the rules is I don't risk what I am not willing or able to lose. So that's first. If I am willing and able to lose or time or whatever, so that's a plus. And then what I'm thinking that I'm going to earn, it's got to be worthwhile. So, and after that, just if you're knowledgeable of the business you're getting into, as I said, when I got into this curve was way too steep, I couldn't pay it. So, but if you're knowledgeable of the sector you're willing to invest or to start, I'd say go for it. I agree with Cristian, problems will arise every day, and that's making things happen. So for me, that part is not the big issue. The big issue is afterwards, how to hire people, and to what Eduardo said, if you're thinking of becoming a big company, you have to have the people and know the people that can help you out in doing that. But starting out, that's us. That's what we do.
Awesome. Thanks, Robbie. Just so you know, Robbie, your internet is breaking up a little. So now you can check settings or something. Okay, next up, Jose.
Yeah, I would say, and Eduardo talked a little bit about this, which is if you have an idea and you think it's really good, your number one goal should be to figure out what is the product market fit for that idea. I think one of the hardest lessons that you learn when you're in startup is that ideas are really cheap, and that if you come up with something, it's likely that someone else already came up with it before. And if it's not an existing company, it's because they didn't figure out how to actually execute on that idea. And I think that's, you have to love your idea, but you can't be married to it. You have to be constantly testing, constantly iterating, changing things. I think we probably all have a story here of making a small tweak that unlocked just like a huge boom in growth. So, for example, last week we changed the headline of one of our notifications, and that simple change increased one of our conversion rates by 5x. And so you never really know when you're going to hit on something like that, but you always have to kind of be trying, and you can't be too precious about your idea. You see a lot of people who tell you that they have this great idea for an app, and they're like, but I can't tell you because it's super secret. And it's always like, well, dude, like I probably had the same idea as you did. Like it's about how you do it.
Excellent. Thanks, Jose. Cool. Great answers, guys. Let's see. Next up is Joanna Beltran Giron. And she asks, first says, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Which hard skills in finance and tech do you think are the basic ones one should learn in order to begin materializing your ideas into a tech business? So what are the basic hard skills in finance and tech? We need some Jeopardy music.
Well, I don't know. I'm no tech expert and I'm not in the industry, but I do need to understand at least tech because it helps me in my business. I mean, I have to have a website, and that's very basic, right? You don't have to know everything. I think, like I mentioned before, in terms of finance, how to read financial statements and what that means, like how your costs, if you're going to sell, I don't know, a phone, how much is this phone going to cost you to make, and how much are you going to be able to sell it for? Like very basic, the most basic, simple thing. How much money can it really make? How many people can you sell it to? So understand that much. You obviously can't make something that's going to cost you more than it's going to get you. So in terms of finance, just keep it simple. Keep it as simple as possible. And as you grow, things will change. But I think the basics will get you started. in terms of finance. Tech, I don't know. I'll leave it to the tech guys.
Okay, great. Tech guys, any basic skills you think you guys think are a priority?
I think it depends. I've never really been tempted to become a programmer, but I feel like I've gotten enough knowledge so that I can talk to a programmer and kind of explain what I want, and they talk to me, and it doesn't feel like it's Greek. So it kind of depends on where you're at. If you're more heavy on the programming side, obviously like pick a language and learn to master it. If not, you should try to develop kind of almost like project management skills, so that if you hire a developer or if you subcontract a developer, you can talk to them and you can specify exactly what you want and how it's going to be executed.
Awesome, good tip. Anyone else? Basic skills? No. So it sounds like we got a project management. Learn to be able to talk to the tech people, and learn how to read finance. Okay, cool. Oh wait, Robbie.
Yeah.
And,
well, just on the tech side, it's okay. Well, can you? Okay, so on the tech side, I know very little about it, and that works great for me because I design what I imagine, and I have an awesome tech partner that helps me put the ideas into scope sheets and stuff that the programmers can give us feedback on times and costs. And on the other side, so for me, I don't have the tech knowledge. I just have someone I really trust and that understand the way I think and can come back with scope sheets, and that's like the document that serves as common ground for everyone when we start. Then of course we have other documents, but that's what as little as I know, I think it has worked well for me. And regarding money, at first I didn't know anything, just how to sell. And I figured I sell enough to pay everything, get some money. That's how I started. Then I could hire people that actually was knowledgeable and that gave us enough information on where not to put money, how much money we could put in different things, how to be as safe as possible. Sometimes our financial manager a few years back was extra conservador, and we were more bold. So we always had these conversations, and those are good to have.
awesome. Okay, Eduardo, I think I saw you had something.
No, I was just about to comment that, Salvador and I think in the region as a whole, we have good talent, but it's very hard to find it because now there's a bunch of I don't want to say like factories, but there's a bunch of new companies that are getting our best talent, and that's being used for the US or Europe or Asia. And even though maybe in Roberto's perspective, like I think it's at some point it's good to know about the tech, because there's a bunch of like scams in terms of what they're developing, and then like making the code, for example, in such a way that only that specific person understands it. So if you don't keep that person, for example, you're basically lose all the code, and kind of like that's something that not in Hugo, but I've known and understand this is a practice that's happening around the region and around the world. But I think it's good to know a little bit and talk to the tech team, because at least for me, even personality wise, they are the opposite, right? So they are more of introvert, and they're like they're in their own world, and sometimes what you envision and you have in your mind maybe it's not the same as what they think and what they are building, right? So I think that conversation, it's pretty important. And you learn in the way, right? So for example, in my case, I'm a financial more of background, but I had to learn all this stuff because at some point they just said, okay, this is the amount of money you have, and now you have to do whatever you need to build the product. And I had to first hire someone from the product team and kind of like lead the hiring process for certain engineers. And I had to understand how to speak to them, so my ideas will transform then to code and then to product.
I just wanted to also to echo Roberto and Eduardo. I think recruiting, especially if you want to be a founder, CEO, recruiting at some point will become your full-time job. And when you think about it, if you have one person who's a bad fit out of a 500-person big company, like, it's bad, but it's not a big deal. But if you have one person that's a bad fit in a team of 4 or 5, like, it's really, really bad. And when the pandemic opened up, I lost half my marketing team. And not only did I spend a lot of time finding the replacements, and that was 2 months ago, I'm still training the people who I hired to replace them. Even though they're very good, they were more experienced, I still had, I'm still training them in how we do things, how to do all that stuff. So in general, like, making sure that you can make good recruiting decisions is very crucial. And, if you're talking about what skills to develop, I think part of it could also be finding somebody to be your co-founder that can complement the areas that you're weak in.
Gotcha. Great. Sounds like everything's kind of converging around team-based, right? Find people that can help you out. That's a great skill to learn. Okay, so just taking a look at the stack right now, we have a question coming up from Petra. We have one from, let's see, Fernando, Benjamin, and then Petra. Let's see. So Petra asking another hard question. Do you take investments from countries you don't trust? Getting some head shakes.
I'll just say real quick, if you don't trust someone, then don't do business with them, period. Like, I wouldn't take investments from a country or an individual that I don't feel comfortable with, because if they're investing in you, then you're giving up part of your business. You're bringing in them as a partner, then they're getting any equity or any say in your business, and you don't trust them, then that already is a problem. So I would that's a hard no for me.
Yep. Everyone else in agreement? Yeah, it looks like hard nose around the table. Okay.
Yeah, I guess if you start getting sketchy money and your plan is to go and take money from institutional investors or other type of funds, once they do their due diligence, after they find something, it's going to be a complete no, especially if there's an investor or it's in an OFAL list, for example, right, that directly takes you into another level with the Treasury Department, State Department, and then probably your business value is gonna go down to 0. So yeah, that's a hard no.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was wondering if I could, I was wondering if I could like piggyback off of that question.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you, I guess, partner up or invest between countries? Like, is that a complicated process, or is that something, simple as just signing a contract?
Between the Central American countries or between the US and El Salvador?
Between the two different countries, the US and Central America, or the other way around.
I think it's not that hard, and I guess there's state agencies that help you to navigate it. I don't know, for example, you go to the local I don't know, consulate, or I don't know if the consular agent is the one, but I think there's plenty of options where you get, I guess the state gives you advisory both the U.S. and or Salvador, because there's a, I don't remember I think it's through the Department of Commerce, I guess. Um, Maybe there's a set of rules, or I don't have that information with me, but I don't think it's that is that hard. Maybe Fernando or the other guys might know the answer for that question. But I think it's not that hard. It's basically we're the same country now.
Robbie?
Oh, yeah, we haven't had the experience of raising money like in a series like Google has. So, but we do have in one of our companies that is growing, and we've had people asking if they can invest in the company. And some of our current investors are from the United States. Salvadorians living in the United States, and uh, since the companies are under Salvadorian laws, it's fairly easy to have new shares and do it with local lawyers and to what Christian said, and we all agree. We don't take money. It's not that we actually needed the money to keep on growing, but we don't take money from people we don't like, trust, or are acquainted with. It's because of the kind of companies that we have. So, but it's been very easy to have the investment coming in. It hasn't been difficult at all. Um, Most of the people already have like dual uh, um, banking accounts and local banking accounts, so receive the money locally. That's and it hasn't been difficult at all to do it. And in one of the cases, we opened an LLC in Delaware to serve as the parent company for one company we already had here. So that was another way to do it.
Awesome. Thanks, Marissa, for contributing that question. It looks like we're running short on time, guys. So I'm going to prioritize people that haven't got a chance to ask a question yet. So it looks like I have a good question from Jose Alvarez. And it says, tech is great, but it is available for many. Now that it is usual that one idea is taken by the other, for example, El Salvador now has 3 or 4 online supermarkets. And the local supermarket is also developing their own. What is the secret to being unique and better than I guess, others, the competition? Big question. Big question. How do you be, Robbie?
Saludos a Don Epe, who's great mind. With I've learned from him. So, but in regards to being competitive in technology, I think that one of the best things to do is be one of the first, because every day that you continue developing, it's harder for all the other guys to catch up with you. That's something we learned with Alertix. With Alertix, we were the first to do this, and then other guys came out. And with similar models. And since that's a very social company, we didn't mind that much, but we always kept on developing, because if you stop your tech development, you tank, then everyone can come in and catch up with you and leave you behind. So one of the first things in my case, what I think works is never stop developing, never stop the development. Keep on developing, keep bringing on new ideas, testing them, have a culture of innovation within the company. Think that when you start a company in tech, development never ends. It keeps on going forever and ever. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is thinking beyond El Salvador. Um, as Eduardo said earlier, the market's great to start, but it's very small. So you have to think quickly how to move beyond El Salvador. And I think those are the two things that I can share. that has worked for me the best.
Okay, awesome.
I think learning from case studies and how other people have done it is also very helpful. One of my favorite books of all time is Blue Ocean Strategy, and it really helped me kind of frame how do you develop products, and it's actually about how do you exit markets that are super saturated and kind of create a new market for your own. And I think like Roberto said, just figuring out a way to scale. And sometimes honestly, uniqueness is a little bit overrated because it's easy to catch up to where people are, and then you just figure out how to out execute them. And you don't have to have the biggest brandest new idea, and sometimes just doing something really well and finding your niche can be enough.
I agree with Jose, just real quick. Yeah, I think it really depends on the market, right? Like if it's a market with a lot of different players, like coffee, there's so much competition here. But I found the one blank space, which is Salvadoran brand. There was no Salvadoran brand. So I created that, and it happens to be something that's, near and dear to me. So that's helped me. But then now I have to learn, like Jose said, from, okay, how are these guys doing it? And how can I do it better? So.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. I think we have time for just one last question before kind of closing remarks. I think Fernando, you had a question?
Sure. Thank you, guys. I actually want to close with I think a big question on how to really merge the brain drainage that we've had in El Salvador. No, we have about 30% of our population living overseas. Population has been exposed to a lot of ideas, to a lot of new business models, to a lot of people from around the world that brings great talent to their nurture of their day-to-day. And we were talking earlier about uniqueness. What's something that can keep us unique and make us thrive? And I think the key to uniqueness is being exposed to different perspectives and learning from every single person. And sometimes in El Salvador, we become a small pueblo, como dicen, no infierno grande. But a lot of the problems we try to solve come from within. And I strongly believe that the talent that has left El Salvador, at 3 million people that are living overseas, brings a great value to the country and to the problems that we currently face. And my question, honestly, for the crowd or for anyone who wants to jump in, is how could we leverage that? I know these spaces are beautiful because we're creating, a small bridge for that, but how can we bring Salvadoran communities together and the people that have so much to offer, and hopefully reverse that brain drainage back to El Salvador and the people?
Awesome. Thanks, Fernando. It's $1 million question. Cristian, did you have a response?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing question. It's an amazing goal to have. What I think, and it's one of the ideas that one of the things that I want to do, because ultimately what I really want to do is bring what I'm learning about the coffee industry here to the entire coffee producing industry in El Salvador, and just blowing it out. Like, let's have Salvadoran brands in the US, in Europe, in Asia. Like, let's just, let's sell out of coffee every year in like May. Like, se acabó el café salvadoreño because we sold out, right? I would love to be able to like show and teach whatever I'm learning and learn more in the process, right? I think, someone at the consulado in LA asked me to do some lectures like via Zoom because of the pandemic at a couple of universities back in El Salvador. And I thought that was amazing. I loved it. And I got a lot of questions. And I think that type of thing kind of, it sparks the brains of, our youth in El Salvador, and kind of gives them an idea and a different perspective. That might be a way, being it like tapping into the universities, the colleges, or maybe even younger, connecting those people, like those of us here that want to connect and, you know, want to help our people with those out there that want to grow, you know, and look beyond what's, you know, within their horizon, you know. So I don't know. I think that there's a number of ways, and I don't even have all the ideas, but I maybe through education, maybe through institutions like that.
Awesome. Anyone else have a good idea or strategy on how to get the brains back into El Salvador, or at least the ones that left?
Well, I think part of the opportunity of the world that we live in now is that we don't need to go back to El Salvador necessarily to undo the brain drain, right? I think when you think about the relative advantages that different countries have, one of the advantages, you know, El Salvador has is as a percentage of the population of, you know, El Salvador is probably the country that has one of the highest diasporas. And we have so many people here in the States that I think finding ways to engage people who, you know, maybe they won't move back, but maybe they'll go live there for a summer, or they'll go once or twice a year, but will work remotely and will invest in the country and will help other people, you know, learn and start things. You know, I think finding some way to kind of re-bridge that connection with, especially with all the technology that we now have, I think that would be kind of a great, because it's a little bit unrealistic to think, you know, 3 million Salvadorans won't move back to El Salvador. But if you can find some way to harness the power of, you know, of all the Salvadorans that are spread around the world, I think that could be something special too.
Awesome. Okay. Eduardo or Robert, do you have any thoughts?
I think I kind of agree with what Jose is saying, that we just globalize now, and I think you can start like solving issues from there to here, and I guess what Fernando's saying, that maybe, and that's something, for example, in my case, and it sticks to his argument, where I actually, like, if I didn't live in the US for about 8 years, and I didn't experience the fintech and you know, that easiness to access financial markets in the US compared to what I experienced in El Salvador when I was a kid, it will be, and maybe that competitive advantage, having and create that here, without that experience, will have been much harder. And I guess that sticks up because maybe there's solutions for certain things that in the Salvadoran community is experiencing, and then they come back for visiting, you know, relatives, and they start having that idea and visions of, wow, this is not happening here, or there's a market opportunity here, or there's a bunch of ideas that I think that specifically to the Salvadoran community, you can, you know, do a lot of stuff in here. And I guess it sticks up with that supermarket question. At the end of the day, you can have as many online supermarkets as you want, but which one is actually resolving your issue? Which one is getting your groceries? I don't know, if you want it in 30 minutes, or you want, but it comes all with crumbles and stuff. There's might be one of those, but maybe if you want it more fresh or whatever, it can be one of those. And just last example, actually, we hired someone that used to live in the US to run one small subdivision of the supermarket, online supermarket, and that it's called Freshly. And what he did was very, like, I actually never thought, I thought of it, but I didn't thought it was going to become such an opportunity. And what he did was he digitalized all the municipal markets, like Santa Tecla Market and San Salvador Market. And now through the app, you can order fresh vegetables and fresh fish or whatever. And it opened and gave access to all the puestitos to credit cards and debit cards, and kind of like started, to building up that, bankization that you were trying to also do with the fintech. And that happened because I think that's something that he saw in LA, or I don't know where in California, but he replicated that and did that. But one thing that and something that maybe we've spoken with Fernando on the side about this, is that one thing is to replicate and build and make money, right? But the other thing is to actually innovate from El Salvador to the world, right? And there are two different things that are very, very outliers now, right? One is to replicate and improve a model in El Salvador, but the cool thing, it will be to actually have an innovation hub where cool ideas and become, the next TransferWise, the next Revolut, or the next, and actually think and scale globally. And I think that's more of a dream than the other one, but both of them are dreams. But I think that the biggest one is to have, it's the same analogy of having or wondering if La Select is gonna go to the World Cup to represent us internationally at a global stage, right? And I think that's the idea that maybe everyone should go from here.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
I just want one more question before we head off, because I see that two different people asked a similar question, and that's, how do you find those co-founders, those partners, those the people to join your team? What are the best strategies to find those people to work with? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so since in my experience, I will always have partners. I have co-founders for every company, and usually this co-founder is also the managing partner. So most of the times I work with people I've known for years, and sometimes they already have some sort of idea, or they already have the entrepreneurial spirit, and I've seen it before. Um, I think I've never, only one company I've partnered with someone who was a very, very close friend first. Most of the time, it's just a matchmaking of skills, complementary, and we have set of rules. That's something I learned along the way, like have rules for starting out. That who's going to put the money, or how much money we're going all to put at first. What happens with the profits, and have all these ground rules set up from the get-go. So that's how I've done it. Usually I'm the one introducing people. I like to have two more co-founders, at least two more, sometimes three, because that way, if anything happens, if one of the co-founders fails or doesn't want to continue, the others can consider whether to keep on moving forward or not. So that's, and usually we all have roles, and we have always board meetings, even if the company is tiny, sometimes it's super tiny. We still always have the discipline to have a weekly board meeting, or every 15 days at the most, and have accountability from everyone, because that way you know very fast if the team is going to work or not. So that's what has worked for me in starting out tiny.
That's great advice. Thank you. Anybody else?
I would just echo that you have to be very detailed in everyone's roles and expectations. I've had good and bad experiences, or maybe not so great, but yeah, it's you have to be very specific, very detailed. So there's no surprises.
That's great. Thank you. So yeah, we're about 15 minutes past time here. So any closing remarks from Carlos or Fernando?
No, for me, it's just been very exciting. Hopefully we can repeat it. And what I ask is for it not to be the first, I mean, not to be the last, but the first of many. So very excited. And thank you, Cristian, Roberto, Jose, and Eduardo for the spot, as well as Carlos and Maritza for putting it all together. And everybody, of course, for joining us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to echo Fernando, and I feel a little bad that there's so many questions left on the chat, and I have some questions as well. So it definitely seems like we're going to need to have more of this. And Robbie's been harassing me in the chat to answer one of the questions or give my opinion on one of the questions about what to do about the brain drain. And just to give a little quip from my experience in Salvis Unidos, who deals mostly with diaspora Salvadorans, is there's such a hunger to reconnect and give back to El Salvador from all kinds of people, from engineers to artists to nonprofits to, coffee entrepreneurs, like you name it. Like if it's a Salvadoran, especially in the age range of like older centennial to millennial, there's such a desire to give back and contribute back in some way. And I think the biggest obstacle is not the desire for the people, is a method for them to do so. Like a lot of them just don't know how to give back or how to contribute, how to help people out. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that would want to invest in the businesses in El Salvador from the US, or businesses in the US, like Don Leo Cafe based in El Salvador, but nobody knows. We don't have a way to do it. So looks like Jose Duarte says a great startup idea. Yeah, that'd be awesome to see kind of a bridge, right, between El Salvador and the US and giving people away. But I can honestly say that that's the main thing I encounter here in El Salvador and in New York, or actually across the US when you talk to Salvadorans, is like, I want to connect. So yeah, I'll leave you guys with that. Think about that.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. We'll see you in the
Thank
next
you.
one.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.